So I welcome you all for the webinar, The Art of MVP. This is a webinar series which we are conducting as part of Build It webinar series focused on hardware product development and manufacturing aspects. We had conducted a webinar 2 weeks back touching upon lean hardware product development concepts. This week we are concentrating on the MVP. To tell a little bit about our company, we are a manufacturing as a services platform. We started off as 3D printing services. Right now we provide product designing services for consumer electronics, medical products, UAV and different hardware products. We are also building a platform, a design platform for easily generating the designs and getting manufacturing done, which I will, if possible, I will demonstrate at the end of the webinar. These are the topics we are briefly touching upon in this webinar. That is, what is MVP, how to plan a MVP, the basic do's and don'ts which we have observed while serving our clients and in our startup journey. And at the end we will have a Q&A session. The MVP is a concept which comes in lean product development. You don't build something and then go to the market, rather build it along with the user. Build it along with the user and on the way gather the resources, gather the technical expertise and reach a place where the product is matured enough to scale and earn enough revenue. So in the last webinar, we touched upon the idea validation, what are the proof of concepts. We looked upon few examples of crowd-funded products which failed and also succeeded. So a proof of concept, you create a proof of concept to validate a concept, whether a problem, whether the idea you have come up with is valid, whether user would like to use it. But the proof of concept won't be sturdy, it won't be continuously usable, it might break. So with the proof of concept, you validate the idea that there is a little bit of interest with respect to the concept, or you can build it. So the next step you go is rather raising an investment or investing some money building the whole product. The idea is to create a minimum viable product. The whole aim of creating a minimum viable product or a MVP is to create something with just enough features. A potential user is ready to pay for it and use it. For example, say you are building a variable or a car or a mop or any home appliance. The MVP you build must have enough features. When I say enough features, is the core functionality. When I say a variable, it should have a display, it should be able to show the time and few other necessary apps in it, and whatever the USP you are trying to show in that. And what is the why we build a MVP? And when we say MVP, if you go and search on the internet, we might get confused with the terms like prototype or MMP, minimum marketable product, etc. And even the POC and MVP sometimes seem similar for different products and in different domains. The whole aim of MVP is to maximize learning and minimize risk. The learning with respect to building the product, with respect to functionalities which user would like to use, with respect to the market potential of the product, the revenue potential of the product, easiness or difficulty in entering the market, whether there is any potential to build it further or you have to stop it. To find all these things, the MVP is used, and also minimize the risk in terms of investment or also in terms of time. Say you have come up with the medical product which you see a lot of potential, or you see a particular problem is solved, say something with respect to a cancer. The product might be able to solve the problem perfectly. Say you are building something in detecting a particular cancer type. The product might be able to detect it perfectly, but can it be converted into a revenue generating product, is there enough patience or is there enough necessity for the product? What is the amount of investment required to build it? What are the challenges involved in getting the product compliant ready, getting the approvals? What are the challenges in penetrating the market? And all these things are there. And even if the product might not be able to generate any revenue, if it is solving a problem, what is the way to make it reach the patients or make it reach the doctors to use it? Say you are trying to build a car. MVP is not building it part by part, like building the chassis, then the body, and then the assembling the engines, and then putting the electronics. Rather, you build whatever you can where user can sit and drive it, and based on his feedback, keep adding the features like improving the ergonomics, improving the mileage, or many other features which can be put into the car. A MVP can either evolve or pivot based on the user feedback. The illustration we are seeing on the screen is a famous example you will get all over the internet, and there's a debate also whether what is the correct process of MVP. Of course, you can't jump from a skateboard to a cycle to a bike to a car, but if you spend enough time with the user, like the example of the car which is shown in the visuals, a product can eventually evolve to become a mature product using which you can capture the larger user base. Or you might find enough insights based on which you can decide to pivot the whole idea and change the whole concept of the product and eventually find an idea or a concept which will be helpful for you to scale. How to plan MVP? Let's take the example with the variable you are building to track the performance of an athlete. The process of MVP starts with the market research to find whether there is a concept or a product already in the market in the lines of what you have taught. If there are products already in the market, is there any USP in your concept or not? Or are there any products which have come to the market and failed and exited? Once you are clear of the concept, then start with the value addition which you are planning to build, or start validating the value addition which you are planning to add. It can be the price point or some of the features or ruggedness or anything else which you have found. Then map the user flow. How will the user use it? Where on the body will the variable be? How will the athlete get the data? In what form will he get the data? Will it be on the smartphone or will it be on a display in the variable itself? Or so many other things. Then list out the MVP features. Normally the MVP features must have the USP which you have pointed out in your concept. The next part is building the MVP and deploying it. Then go through the process of build, measure, learn and iterate. Definitely it's not as easy as I am telling it, but this is a way which is many people have tried and have figured out to build good and successful products in the market. Once you build a MVP, what are the ways to track it or validate it? One of the things is word of mouth. When you take it to the user, if user starts using it right away, if he can understand, if you observe that he is easily understanding the features, he is easily understanding the utility, you need not hard sell the product. You need not convince him that this feature is very useful to him, and he is actually relating to it. That is user engagement. And say if he starts suggesting it to other people in the same domain or other people to use it, it is a very good sign for it. Then some of the other things which one might have to check is how many users. This illustration is specifically related to the software MVP, but I'm adopting it because it's to hardware MVP because it's also something similar for hardware MVPs. So other things you need to track is how many people are you able to reach once you have built the MVP. And the reaching is not just through the actual product, actual MVP, the physical one. Once you reach the users, if the word of mouth spreads, if the videos and other social media channels pick up due to the quality of the MVP or due to the functionalities which you have featured in the MVP, you might start getting inquiries. You might start getting inquiries from users for buying it, or you might start getting inquiries from investors also. You might start getting inquiries or interest from collaborators. These are the good signs which you can take. But we need to be careful also where whether it is validating the product or validating the idea. Validation of the product comes from users or customers who are ready to pay for the product or start using it right away. Validation of the idea is they are seeing the potential but not sure of paying for it, or coming up with the idea that this can be adopted this way in some other field, or can be some tweaks can be done and used for something else, etc. These are the good inputs using which you can figure out further iterations or pivots. One of the examples which I took for the earlier webinar also, which was one of our customers, IXetronics, who are embedded systems development company based out of Mangalore, who came across a cashew industries community who shared a problem with respect to moisture in the raw nuts, which was causing problem in processing, which is cooking and peeling the nuts to produce processed cashew nuts. They built up POC to just figure out a way to sense the moisture and do something with and figure out to show temperature and some other things which they were telling it, and which attracted the people from the cashew board or from the cashew industries and asked whether they can build it. And they came up with MVP, a product where they had figured out the electronics using the off-the-shelf development boards like Arduino Nano, etc., and build the enclosures using 3D printing. So, and the one particular person probably from the community was ready to buy a few products, and he funded it upfront. And using that particular fund, they built everything, and that gave it to him. Through him, so many other people also got to know about it. They also started to use it, and somehow it picked up. Eventually, that gave them, in this process, gave them flexibility in terms of fund. They need not put their own money. Flexibility in terms of experimentation. They came up with the foundation of technology and software. Then upon that, they had to just iterate. Also found other avenues for the same product, like not just the cashew, for paddy, coffee, etc., etc. And also figured out the technical complexities in terms of accuracy, which they had to give with the product, and found the limitations of the market. Say in the agro industry, if they had to sell it, this might not be able to build to generate crores of revenue probably, because there are no enough industries, or after a particular point of time, there won't be any rapid sales for the same. But with the limited fund, limited time period, building this gave them so many insights upon which they could decide iteration, pivoting, and potential ways to market it, the revenue potential, and also might have helped them to come up with other products also, helping for export them to many other problems, using which they could have built many other products also. One of the other widely famous example which I had taken in the previous webinar also is a FDM 3D printer. This is a very interesting case where not one particular company or not one particular person built this and built it into a very good product. Here, the 3D printers and 3D printing technology was there since 1960s, 70s, etc. But once the patents, etc., collapsed, a community called RepRap, an open source community, started exploring ways to build FDM 3D printers. The FDM 3D printers are the one which are widely seen these days in many institutions and many startups, etc. This particular community started coming up with the designs and exploring the designs, which attracted other stakeholders like students, DIY enthusiasts, engineers, anybody who's interested to build something on his own, anybody who's building something electronics or robotics, or somebody who is an artist, all needed ways to create customized parts, and 3D printer was making it possible. But the only thing was you need to take the bomb from the open source community and build it on your own. Once people started building on their own, they found problems and started contributing back to the community, or with iterations or modifications, or coming up with new components which would help evolve the 3D printers. And many such innovators or DIY enthusiasts, when they were building 3D printer or using the 3D printer, attracted their peers or the local community or in their country, and or whatever whomsoever they were in touch with, and they were ready to pay for it, and they eventually built it into something sturdy where the number of materials which they could print was more. I mean, they figured out ways to print more materials, industrial grade materials, composites, figured out ways to print multicolored components. From geography to geography, the temperature conditions and environmental conditions vary, so you need to make it sturdy for all those conditions. So once from a DIY or in our term we can call it what was a prototype or a MVP, which people started to use, slowly evolved into a product in different ways with different startups or different companies. One of the first few companies who started building was MakerBot, who started off with open source designs which they were selling, and then eventually started building proprietary 3D printers also. And this is a very interesting case where you are getting validation from the community itself, and through that community you try to figure out, you found ways to sell the products to industries or more larger customer base. So when we say users or customers, coming up with an idea is very intuitional or very personal thing, or an idea can flash to you, or while discussing with friends you can come up with something, or you can brainstorm and come up with it. And you can also might probably easily identify users, but reaching out to larger number of users is a very difficult thing for any kind of products, from domain to domain, from application to application. It's a very difficult thing. But what are the very few of the ways to reach users? Definitely depends on products and users, but if you're building something very specific to businesses, then you can approach the professional bodies, say agricultural institutions, or say there are fabricators, then they would have one society or association, and there are very many nation specific or international bodies which will give access to many specific professional bodies in them. There are many social media communities, like people into embedded systems, robotics, medical technologies, the communities of doctors, communities of agricultural enthusiasts, and so many. There are so many communities, hobbyist communities across the social media which you can approach. Then one of the things which we picked up in 2013-14 was crowdfunding campaigns, where people come up with POCs or MVPs or some functional product which need not be sturdy, but try to pitch it to the community in those crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter or Indiegogo. And if people fund it completely, say they might ask for $10,000 or 1 crore rupees or something like that, and if they succeed in reaching the crowdfunding campaign, then they will get the money and they can build the product, make it sturdy, and then need to give it back to the ones who have funded it. This is also one of the very interesting, or one of the go-to channels. But these days it seems that you need to prepare a lot to get those traction, and also need to be careful on what you are building. If it is easy to copy, then people from China or some other countries can, or anybody can easily copy it and sell it, and you might raise the amount you wanted to raise successfully, but it might not capture the market that easily. Also, like trade shows or reaching out directly to these closed space communities is also one of the ways you can reach to users. I'll just touch upon what are the key aspects, or I won't say do's and don'ts, but what are the key aspects to consider and what are the key aspects to avoid while building a MVP. One of the things is, don't just start away, take guidance from the experts. If there are anybody for related to business, related to technology, related to execution, you need not build everything from scratch. You can take off-the-shelf components. You can outsource also to somebody. You need not figure out and build something on your own also. Fix a budget. Do a market research. Fix a budget so that eventually you don't get carried away and spend more budget and time, and fix a timeline. I have seen people, especially from academia, who have spent 2, 3, 4 years with the same idea, and they just wait for the grants, or wait for, or just don't, not following the timeline, have extended their time to build a MVP or build a prototype. If they had built earlier, probably they could have captured a larger market, or might have missed the timing sometimes. And one of the things what you have to look for while building MVP is, one is identifying or classifying between a customer and a user. Whatever you are building, as I was giving the example of a medical product, the user and customer can be different many times. If you are building something with respect to diagnosis, like diagnosing the body, diagnosing a specific disease, and which is, I'm not speaking about these sugar machines or these variables which track so many aspects of the body. I'm touching to those diagnosis equipments which doctors validate. For such equipments, the buyers are the hospitals, or validators are the doctors, rather than the patient. User is a doctor and it's used on the patient, but the customer can be the hospital or the management from the hospital. It's very, very important to classify who is a customer and who is a user. Say again, if I have to give another example from the medical field itself, you can take the example of implants or prosthetics for amputated people who have lost limbs or legs, or for other implants which goes inside the body. Here, the user or the patient might not be able to afford it. The number of people who are there who need it might not be able to afford it. So there are rich and poor people, and the amount required to manufacture these implants might be costly also. Many times it's costly only. And even if you figure out a way to manufacture it in a cheaper way, the compliances and other things will add up to make it a little bit costlier only. And in these cases, the CSR funds from the hospitals or many other government initiatives, these things probably can be able to fund this to make it reach the user. So it's very, very important to prioritize identifying who is a customer and who is a user. And also this, whatever I described right now, also revolve a little bit around revenue model also. Then also figuring out IP prospects. the copyrights and whether there is a potential for filing a patent. Sometimes you might not be able to reach larger customer base, or might not be able to find right channel to sell the product. But the technology you have built, there could be potential to license it and generate revenue also. Many of the times I have seen people who, especially in semiconductor industries, etc., who have just built the IPs and licensed it, which others used and made the chips. Or you will see such things in EV industry and so many other industries also. And if in case you have come up with any hypothesis is, say, you have built a variable and you're thinking it's there is a very good potential in sports community. So it's very important, and sports community, and especially for the especially for people who are going for gym or for a particular sport like badminton or football or something like that. And it's very important to first figure out, validate that hypothesis, whether it's whether the athletes or the sports people who are in those fields are actually finding value in it. If not, whether can this fit in other domains also. And it's very important to try validating the hypothesis fast as you go acquiring the users also. You might find a small set of users who might be validating it, that yes, it's useful. But if you start iterating based on their inputs and don't go forward to reach more users, then you might be in a blind spot also. And be clear of the domain and its complexities. Say you are building general tech products. General tech products is products for which technology is already available. The electronics is available, the chips are available, the manufacturing technologies are available. You can build a PCB, you can build an enclosure, you can injection mold it or 3D print it, you can design it. There is you might lack the technical capacities to build it, but there are enough technical capabilities and technologies available in the world to build it at a moderate or lower cost. But if you can compare this to deep tech products, when I say deep tech products like space technology, aerospace, or sometimes few aspects of automobile, medical tech products, where what I'm referring with deep tech is with some scientific research, based on some scientific research and outcomes, we're trying to build a new technology or something, for which you need to figure out the technology, you need to figure out so many other things, from basic sensor to basic material to, you might have to go very deep in every aspect. So in deep tech products, the only aim of MVP or proof of concepts or MVP itself can take many months or years, sometimes many years. And the whole aim of it would be to for the scientific exploration or for the longer goals set by institutions or governments, etc. As for general tech products, it's more of solving the problem or reaching out to larger user base to make it financially successful. And what are the few things which I suggest you need to avoid are, I've seen so many examples where you get government grants or access to investment just because of the idea, or say there are so many, if you take the government example of government grants or so many initiatives from the government. There are so many initiatives for student entrepreneurs, for academicians, for grants specifically in medical field or renewable energy field, the circular economy or agricultural field, and so many other things. And the availability of grant, sometimes you might get carried away, you might spend it. The whole aim of getting the grant is to spend on product development, but sometimes it can not budgeting it properly, you might waste it in excess salaries or accessories, office space, and so many other things, where product goes sidelined and you might need extra fund to build it. And another thing which I have come across is iterating the product continuously based on the inputs from a single user or a limited user set. I was working in a company earlier where we were building a hardware product for art and historical places, and there's one particular user who was ready to invest some amount and ready to use it. But for almost a year, he was coming up with different suggestions upon which the whole face of the product had changed at one point of time. But eventually, nothing much happened. So instead of that, if you have gone or explored other user base also, the product would have grown intensively. If you take example of automobile, or say you are building a scooter or an electric scooter, is user to reach as many users as possible as you build the MVP, or you are building a variable, or you are building a medical product. It's important to reach new set of users along with iterating it. Then if there is a situation where you need to hard sell it, like you are trying very hard to convince the user on the features, the user is not at all convinced at all, then it's better to take a pause, go back to the drawing board and see what you can do. Either there is no potential in the market, you might have to stop it, or there could be potential in the technology you have built but not in the product you have built, and so many other things which you can contemplate. And on the way, as you reach users, the ones who are using the product are the one set of people you will meet, but also the ones who have potential to collaborate and build, which will be helpful to reach more number of users, is also another set who you will meet. And also others who might feel potential in the idea and want to invest something, and might give you ideas where they are also seeing the potential. But the success of a MVP, at least based on whatever I have observed so far, is if you have successfully touched the user base who is ready to pay and use it, and if that user base is large enough, then that is the validation, or that's the success using which you can acquire resources, team, funds, etc. But you have not found this user base, but you have found people who are ready to invest on it, or you have got a government grant or something, or you have found people who have shown interest in collaboration. Those are validations of the idea, but not the validations of the product itself in terms of revenue potential or the user validation. And the collaboration or the access to investment can help you to build something and go one step further towards acquiring a user. But if you are able to acquire the user, the paying user with the MVP, then that's the better prospect. So sometimes even if you have the money, you might have to not go ahead with building the product also. You might have seen so many examples where people have scrapped the products. With this, we went around, briefly touched what is the MVP, looked few examples, and I tried to share whatever we have come across around our stint with working with different customers in, especially from MSME sector or in the medical field, and even the consumer appliances. One of the things which can help you in building MVP is the off-the-shelf components or the open source components or the platforms. And we as a company have seen people struggling with designs, or when it comes to manufacturing, even if with respect to MVP, where you need to manufacture lower quantities. It's always difficult to achieve functional accuracy and quality at the same time. And we as a company are trying to solve these aspects so that people can build products with the minimum investment and effort and focus more on the functionality rather than the execution. And as part of this effort, we are exploring ways to come up with tools or services solutions using which we are exploring how we can support the community. And one of the things we have built as part of it is a design generation tool we are building, which is a part of a platform we are building. It's a design generation tool using which you can generate components like enclosures or sheet metal components like L brackets, Z brackets, and ducts, etc. Or components like enclosures for the PCBs you are building with matching the locking types, whether screw or cantilever or the PCB mounts, and different ways of mounting it, and with different aesthetics, and also adhering to the compliances with respect to different domains, these IP 65, 66, 67, 68 compliances, IP compliances, and so many other compliances with respect to domains. The whole aim of this tool is a person with a PCB or must be able to easily generate an enclosure and able to find the prices and available technologies to manufacture it at the cost he is finding it viable, or at the cost which is viable for whatever they are building it. Right now we have the tool. You can log into our website and check it out. I request all the users to check the tool and also suggest to people who you are in touch with for whom it might be relevant. And also another initiative which we are taking is we are keeping aside few hours of our time in a week for which we are available for anybody who is exploring an idea and trying to build a proof of concept or MVP, with whom we can interact and give some suggestions, which is kind of giving back to the community also, and which is also a way for us to learn also. With this, I conclude the webinar here. I thank you everyone for attending the webinar. The recorded session will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for watching the earlier webinar sessions. Also follow our LinkedIn page and the WhatsApp channel for getting regular updates on the upcoming webinar series and other initiatives we are planning in the future. Thank you.